guys, it's Sandra here. Just thought I'd start this week's video with Maggie, my tree that I was talking about last week, because she was just about ready to pop into bud last week. And unfortunately, when some of her buds popped open, that was the day that we got that crappy, snowy, yucky weather. So some of her buds didn't fare so well. But fortunately, they weren't all out yet. So there's still a bunch coming. And I have high hopes for her this week. I think she's going to be beautiful. She really is a pretty tree. And after she's done with the flowers, then she gets leaves and she looks lovely all summer long. So that's Maggie. She's doing okay. The other exciting thing I have in my yard this week, we're going to head over there next, is rhubarb. I'm going to cut some rhubarb and I'm going to make a rhubarb sour cream pie today, which is one of our family's favorite. Let's go check out the rhubarb patch. So this lovely clump of rhubarb in my lawn, I actually inherited from a friend who had a giant patch of rhubarb, and I literally went to her house with a shovel, dug a big clump of it out, brought it here, stuck it in the ground, and it's just gone crazy. Yeah, rhubarb, this seems to really multiply. So if you're going to plant rhubarb from a pot, you're going to need a couple years to let your patch get established, but this one has just done phenomenal. So all I do is I reach in here. I don't bother taking the leaves in the house because there's absolutely no benefit to it. I usually just kind of tuck them back in underneath the plant, and it helps keep the weeds down, I guess, or it mulches, whatever, no big deal. But as you can see, this is a big clump of rhubarb because I got this little bit out of just, it doesn't even look like I touched it. Now, honestly, I don't know how much rhubarb I need for my pie recipe because I just kind of fill the pie shell. I just cut a bunch, and clearly I have an abundant supply, so I don't need to be too conservative. I'm not worried. The thing about rhubarb is as you cut it, it just grows more. So I've never, ever not had enough rhubarb. I know some people make like rhubarb syrup and rhubarb muffins and rhubarb cake. We don't like rhubarb that much. We enjoy a few really good pies when it's fresh, and that's about it. Then the rhubarb can go. I've never been one to freeze it. One year we made rhubarb wine, and that was kind of good. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to call that good. It's a pretty decent bowl of rhubarb. Now, we're going to walk over to our asparagus patch. The other night I was out with Caroline. I'll show you that video, and we cut some asparagus for her to take home. Cut, clipped, I don't know. And yeah, we'll check out the asparagus patch. Our apple trees have all been trimmed. Chris cuts off all the branches that point up. This I thought was very clever. Isn't this funny? There was a branch pointing up and he didn't like it how it pointed up, so he tied a rock to it. Because the theory is that apple trees with branches pointing up don't produce fruit. So I don't know. That's what we've been told. So he prunes off anything that points up. So you'll see we've got a nice kind of canopy of apple tree. I don't know how long we're going to keep these apple trees. They don't produce great apples, so I don't know. We'll see. This apple tree actually produces nicer apples too. And it's going to come into bloom soon. The little buds are here. That's going to be blossoming soon. I'm really glad it waited till after last week's snowstorm. So we'll maybe actually get some apples. Some years the blossoms freeze off and then we don't get any. So yeah, it's our apple tree. Okay, asparagus patch, let's go. Hey, so it's my favorite time of year. Caroline's with me. We're in the garden. We're going to pick some asparagus. So delicious. Let's check it out. Okay. So, Caroline, what is your favorite way to eat asparagus?
I like to take them and put them on a sheet with some sea salt, bit of pepper, and some paprika.
Paprika, huh? Mm-hmm. That's kind of cool. That's an interesting flavor.
Just gives it a little something. A little something.
A little something, something.
Yeah. This guy doesn't want to come out.
Don't break them off so low. Just snap them.
I'm trying. I don't want to let asparagus go to waste.
It's okay. There's more. Like lots more. Look at this patch. This is just like so many asparagus. It's kind of hard to see because last year's like leftovers are still there, but there's so many coming. Oh my goodness. Awesome. Okay, there's actually quite a bunch of asparagus again. I'm going to pick some more for lunch. One of our favorite lunches, simple lunches, poached eggs with asparagus. Sometimes I get fancy and make little hollandaise to go on top, which is super yum. Honestly, on a nice warm day like today, you can almost watch these suckers grow. If I leave these, they would get taller and we would have more to eat, but honestly, it's not a big deal. They'll grow more. So you can see our garden has been worked a little bit. We're gonna have to work it again. We're trying to spread this lovely composted organic manure around. We got quite a load delivered and it kind of all went in one spot. So we got to move it around some more. That'll be fine. But yeah, it's coming. We need to soon plant our garden. There's some things we need to move. There's some strawberry plants that have to get moved. I'm hoping to have some planter boxes built in front of our shed once the shed exterior is completed, that we can have some ever-bearing strawberries kind of at the base of the shed in planters. I think that would be kind of fun. I think Chris is getting ready soon to start shingling the top bit. So those black shingles are all cedar shake shingles that he stains them black, and he's talking about putting in a decorative row kind of in the middle, which will be like individually cut so that it has a different pattern. He did that on the porch roofs of the house so that he wants it to match. So that's kind of the goal there. And the other thing I want to take you to is show you a side flower bed that we're debating about what we're going to do. Maybe some of you have some suggestions for me. So this area of our yard has always been a bit of a problem area. This is our addition to our house. So this was all excavated about 10 years ago. Actually, it was 10 years ago. And it was all clay, never really got seeded in with grass. We just have had a hard time with this area. Partly because there's these giant maple trees. You can see the shadows here. Giant maple trees, so it's really hard to grow grass here. And then we've had trucks drive through here to load our feed bin for our boiler feed. So there's just been lots of issues with this section of lawn. And then this year when Chris built the shed, in order to get hydro out there, he dug in underground hydro that came out kind of right here. So we had to dig a whole new trench in and made a big mess. So now I'm trying to decide what to do with this part of our yard. I definitely think I want to put some perennial beds along the edge of the house. Probably hostas, I'm not sure, stilbees maybe. Things that'll do well with the shade, because there's quite a lot of shade here. And then I think we're going to try to plant grass here again. It kind of feels like a futile effort, but we're going to give it a shot. I think, I'm just not sure what else to do. It's not a good spot for a patio. So, and I don't really want a huge garden that I have to maintain here. Partly because if you come this way and see, this is a perennial bed of hostas and dandelions, clearly, and a squirrel planted a tulip for me. That tulip was not there last year. But it's really hard to get anything to grow here because there's so many roots from the trees. Maple trees, it's really hard to grow stuff around them other than clearly dandelions. So I need to get working at this again, clean it up, remulch it, and hope that these hostas and the creeping Jenny take off. I think it will fill in eventually. These are actually hostas that my sister-in-law Lorraine divided from around her house because they were like huge and just kind of had overtaken. So I'm hoping they redo that here and just kind of take over this area. But there's just some general tidying up around the yard that we need to do from the excavation of our shed. So that's going to be a project for this year. But let's head into the house and I'll show you my rhubarb sour cream pie recipe. So this is by no means a family recipe. It's quite simply one that I found online on All Recipes. So I'll put the link to that in the comments. Yeah, it's just a great recipe. I've never been a huge fan of rhubarb pie until I found this recipe. And actually, same with my husband. He loves pie, but he had never been a big rhubarb pie fan. But this one is one that we all seem to really enjoy. Now, I'm just cutting the rhubarb in slices, essentially. I don't worry about having it any finer than that. Probably the smaller bits of rhubarb are maybe a little nicer, but I just throw it all in there. Now, according to my recipe, I'm going to need 4 cups of chopped rhubarb. So I'm just going to keep working away at that. So I shared my pie dough recipe with you last summer. I will put a link in the description of this video to that recipe. Nothing new here, just going to roll out my pie dough and get my rhubarb pie ready to go in the oven. Rolling pie dough takes a little bit of practice once you get good at it. It's it's pretty easy. That looks about perfect. Hopefully I gauged it right and I don't have, oh, it's a little small. Oh, not bad, not bad. I'm not gonna re-roll that. I'm just gonna patch a little bit where I'm a little short. Find if you re-roll your pie dough too much, it makes it tough instead of nice and flaky. So I've got a little hole in my crust here. I'm just gonna patch a piece in and just press it in with my fingers. Now that my pie shell's ready, I'm just gonna pour my rhubarb in the bottom. Now, like I said, the recipe calls for 4 cups. Use your judgment. If your pie plate happens to be a little smaller, then you might not be able to use quite as much. If it happens to be a little bigger, you might want to add some. But essentially, you want it to look pretty full with just the rhubarb in it, like that. And then, let's get to the sour cream portion. Whisk. So you need 1.5 cups of sugar, which seems like an awful lot, but rhubarb is very tart. 1/3 cup of flour, and I always mix that together first. Now, this bowl does not look big enough, so I'm gonna grab another bowl, which maybe isn't clear. You won't be able to see it as pretty, but it'll do the job better. Hold on 1 minute. Let's go with that one. Okay, here we go. Much better. I'm gonna have a mess if I try to mix it in there. To that, I'm going to add an egg and 1 cup of sour cream. Fresh egg from our chicken coop this morning. And sour cream. A whole cup of sour cream. So if you happen to have sour cream in the fridge that's going to go off, or you've had it around for a while, it's a good way to use up sour cream because it does take a whole cup. Okay, measure that in there. And then I'm just gonna whisk it until it's nice and smooth and literally pour it over top of the pie. Takes a little bit to get it all mixed in. If you mix your flour and your sugar together first, it means you don't have any lumps in your flour. So always do that first. Kind of looks like a custardy mixture, which is perfect. And now we just pour that over our rhubarb. And it'll sink in. It'll look like it's going to just sit on top at first, but it goes down through all the rhubarb pieces. Now, I always bake my pies in stoneware pans. If I had the old-fashioned enamel pans, those also work great. I hate glass pie pans. I just find they don't cook the crust as nicely. So that's my little tip there. These are actually Pampered Chef pans. I think you can get other kinds of stoneware now too. I've had these pie plates I've got 2 or 3 of them. I think I've had them for probably, close to 15 years. They work really good. Now, on top of this mixture, you take 1/2 cup of flour, 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and 1/4 cup of melted butter. Now, where's my fork? Here we go. And all you're gonna do again is mix your butter and your brown sugar together first, and then add in your flour, add in your butter. And what it essentially does is makes crumbs that you're gonna sprinkle over the top of your pie. So it kind of makes almost like a paste that you're gonna crumble with your fingers on top of the pie or with a fork. So it's kind of weird looking. I expected it to be more crumbly the first few times I made it, but now that I know what the consistency is, I just work with it. Okay. So I don't want to just dump it or it's gonna be nasty. I just want to kind of make it sprinkled over top. And this is a very full pie plate. I'm gonna bake this pie in the oven with a cookie sheet underneath it because I have a feeling it's going to overflow and make a really big mess in my oven. And it's just easier to wipe a cookie sheet than to clean my whole oven. I also find that baking a pie on the bottom shelf is best if you want to have a crispier crust. And I usually have the heat a little bit higher for the first 15 minutes or so, and then I turn it down and just let it bake. But like I said, I will put a link to this recipe in the description below. Okay, that pie is ready to go in the oven. Can't wait to show you the final result. Excellent. 45 minutes later, I baked it for 15 minutes at the higher temperature and 30 minutes at the lower temperature. And I can tell it's set because the center doesn't jiggle too much. All ready to go. Thanks for joining me in my yard and in the kitchen today. I hope that if you like my videos, you'll subscribe in the bottom corner. Thanks.